All right, so we've built up our Aperture 120D, and by default, the kind of light, the quality of light that we're getting out of this guy is fairly hard light. So you can see on the wall over here, if I put my hand up here, you can see all four of my fingers and my thumbs. I can do shadow puppets and all that. But it's not the most pleasing kind of look on the face. Hard shadows don't usually look good on faces. So we can do something to this light to help modify it and soften it. So I have a light control kit. This is another thing that we have here in the equipment room. And using one of the tools out of this guy here with the yellow edge to it, this is a silk. So I'm going to throw this guy back over here so it's out of the way. And if I put the silk in front of the light, you can see no more shadow puppets over there. I've softened the quality of the light, and it's kind of tough to have this arm out over here, but I think you can see my face, or at least my body. The shadows on me are a lot softer, so my lighting is more flattering. It looks better on my face than just the direct light coming out of the 120D. So this guy, my silk here, is pretty good in front of the light, but I don't want to have somebody sitting here and holding this for the entire time. If you've got a friend or a relative that wants to do that for you, more power to you. But we have a really great tool in the film world called a C-stand. So this big guy here will be able to hold our silk. But before we put a silk in a C-stand and have it hold it for us, there are some proper ways of building these and setting them up for safety, number one, and then just to also make sure that you're not going to drop as light as this is. You don't want anything falling on your head or on top of the camera or anything like that. So I'm going to set the silk down so I've got both hands, and I've got this one already built. So a few parts on here just to kind of show you what things are called. So again, this is a C stand. The C is from Century Grip, the company that originally made these long time ago, but the name stuck. Another way of thinking it is C for century, as in like over 100 uses. These are a workhorse in the film world for sure. So today we're just going to use it to hold a silk, but you can hold anything you want with it, anything that will fit in the head here. So at the base of this are 3 legs. There are differences between them. There's a large leg, medium leg, and the short leg. So another fact about these 3, you can see if we were to draw a circle around the base of the stand, these legs are all equidistant from each other. So if I build this and say one of my legs looked like that, it's not very sturdy. I could push this thing over and it would fall pretty quickly. But with all 3 legs equidistant from each other, it's a pretty sturdy base. So those are the legs there, and then there's the center post, and this has 2 stages of risers. There's the bottom stage and top stage. They both go up, I think, around 4.5 feet. So I'm not going to go all the way up because I'll hit the ceiling in here, but I can raise stuff up pretty tall there. On top of those, I have 2 gobo heads. So the bottom one is holding a gobo arm. That's this arm here that's got another gobo head attached to it. So with that, I can loosen one of those and put this out over here and put my silk over here if I wanted. I could flop this around to the other side, put my silk over there. So it's a really adjustable stand, and I can put things that I'm holding anywhere that I want to. Again, as long as I'm doing so safely. So let me pack that back real quick. So I'm going to go back just a little bit to setting one of these up to get to this point. And once we get to this point, then we can go forward about the rest of the safety. So we have a few different variations of C-stands here in the equipment room. They're all C-stands. They're just made by different companies. So this one's made by Matthews. This one's made by Modern Studio. So the legs and center post and gobos they all perform the same thing. I wanted to show though on these ones, the modern studio stands, to loosen the legs and spread them apart to that equidistant area there. You loosen this bottom knuckle here and then pull the legs around and they will all fall into place. Yep, no worries. So, like so. Okay, so to move the legs around and get them to be that equidistant area there, just loosen this bottom knuckle and then pull the top leg all the way around the stand, and it's going to pull the other ones around until they're all equidistant from each other, and then I'll lock those in place. So what's different between this one and this one is you can see, yes, I do have this knuckle on the bottom here, but the way that these, the base for the stand is designed, if I were to loosen this knuckle, I can actually remove the center post for the stand. So you can imagine if you're not paying attention and you go to open this C-stand up just by loosening this knuckle, what might happen is the base of the stand falls off and drops on your toe, and that's no fun for anybody. So just be sure you know which version of the C-stand you're working with. So again, usually the ones that have these yellow caps on the feet open that way, and then this one, these guys are all spring-loaded. So if I close this guy up, I can just bring the legs in with just a little bit of force. Didn't loosen this at all. And then to open it, you just pull them around like so. And then I can set it up. All right, so those are my two C-stands. I'm gonna stick with the one that I had first, and then I'll put this guy away. To put these ones away, actually this is great to show. I'll loosen this guy as I did before, and then these are all locked into place. So what I do with these is actually lift up. If you want to get in close, you can see there's this gap here. And what I'm trying to do is clear the leg on top over this little notch here. So I got to pull up and then move it around, and then sometimes got to give the center column a little twist, and then lift and fold them all back around. And then I'll tighten this back. You know you've wrapped this one correctly when all three legs are on top of each other, like so. All right, so I'll put this one back on the rack. Okay, so I've got my C-stand here. I've got my legs set up nice and properly. The next thing, before I put any weight on the C-stand, I want to think about something called the right hand rule. So since I've got weight over, I can arm out whatever I'm holding over a great distance like so. If I have that weight on the wrong side of this knuckle, if I do any sort of thing, I'm adding weight to this knuckle is going to loosen and fall. So, whatever thing you're holding is now falling on top of your actor or your camera or, whatever. So the proper way to do this is to set this up correctly. I've got this gobo up top, so I can remove the top gobo arm. And I have this, if I'm looking at the back of the stand, I've got it on the right side of the stand. And then my gobo arm is on top of that knuckle. So if I have it like this now, if I add any weight over here, it might fall a little bit, but it'll get to a point where it's tightening itself as it falls. So if I add any more weight to this, it's just going to keep getting tighter and tighter here. So that is the safe way to do it. I've got the right hand rule there. Next thing to note about the C-stand for safety is, I talked about being on the back of the stand. The way that I identify which way the front or back is of the stand is by the big leg. The big leg is going to determine everything for this, because whenever I put any weight out over the arm, that's always going to be over the heavy leg. So I can add weight to this and it's not going to be able to fall over because it's over this heavy leg here. If I adjust this a little bit, and now I've got this weight over, it's not quite in the middle of these two legs, but it's, not over the heavy leg directly. If I add any weight to this, it's gone. It's going to fall and, hit your dog or whatever. So make sure that your weight is over that heavy leg. Last kind of piece of that safety there is adding something called a sandbag to that heavy leg. So by adding that, you can see now, this isn't going anywhere anytime soon. If I ever feel uncomfortable with how much weight I'm putting on here versus how much sand's on there, I can put another sandbag on there. When you add another sandbag to this, let's say I needed, a little bit more weight on there, I can add it to whichever leg is not going to let the sandbag itself touch the ground. Because if the sandbag, say I put it on this leg here, most of the weight of the sandbag isn't actually up on this leg. It's all on the ground. So I could add it to the medium leg, or it's totally fine to add 2 sandbags to the larger leg. And that's going to get just even more and more stable. So I'm going to go back down to 1 bag, just showing that you can do that. All right, so we have everything set up safely so far. I've got my C-stand arm on the right side of the stand, again, because the large leg is the front of it, so this is the right. And then I'm going to put this in place to hold my silk. So I can just loosen this guy like so. And then to put the silk in the C-stand, I've got to put this pin in the gobo head. Now to do that, you can see there's a few different sized holes in this gobo head. There's this larger one, and then there's a really small one if you wanted to grab onto something really small like a tree branch. And then there's this sort of medium-sized one here. Now, again, talking about the right-hand rule, I want to make sure that this hole for the silk is up on top of the knuckle. That'll make sure if this, very light thing, but if it were to fall, it'll tighten on this knuckle. And then make sure that I am going loosen my gobo a little bit more, and then I just push this all the way through. You have to jiggle it around a little bit, and then it's going to come out this back side here just a little bit, and then I can tighten this in place, and now my silk is safely set up on my C-stand. And so I'm not quite covering my whole area of light. I've got some of it that's soft, but then some of it making through on the floor that's a little bit hard, so it's just a little bit of adjustment. I can loosen this gobo head here, drop that down, move it into position a little bit better, and just like so, I've taken my light that was originally hard light, not very flattering, and made it softer. And that's the C-stand and silk.